In New York, a powerful display of solidarity with the people of Ukraine. Supporters turning out in full force at the Metropolitan Opera House last night for a benefit concert that was also broadcast around the world, including on public radio in the war zone 5,000 miles away. The Ukrainian national anthem before a sellout crowd of 3,600, tickets that sold out in just 10 minutes, with all proceeds going to Ukrainian relief efforts. There was a long and loud standing ovation for Ukraine's ambassador to the UN, who shared a box with many other UN dignitaries, including U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. Sari Kitsalitsa told me in a wide-ranging interview, Ukraine is grateful to the American people, who have been, in his words, exceptionally generous. Then I asked him, with Russia escalating attacks, does he still believe Ukraine can win this war?
There is no way Putin can win. I think that Putin's months, if not weeks, are numbered. It's very clear. It's just a matter of time.
What more at this moment do you need?
We need the capacity for air defense. If NATO is not willing to provide the no-fly zone, then we need air defense and aircraft to defend the skies ourselves. And I'm sure that the way they now see how Ukrainians as a nation are determined to defend Ukraine and defend Europe makes it even more possible for them to deliver the weapons that we need to defend not only Ukraine but the West. The implications are global. If you look what the Secretary General of the United Nations said today, he mentioned that 50–60% of wheat supply globally comes from Ukraine. And he literally said that today the breadbasket for many third world countries is being bombed by the Russians. It will have long-lasting effects on food security, on supply of wheat, grain, oil. There are countries around the world that depend almost 100% on the grain supply from Ukraine. So you can imagine what happens next after the supply is interrupted. Of course, they may go to the markets and try to buy grain from other suppliers, but the prices are already inflated, and we are speaking about the countries that are basically either poor or devastated themselves due to the international conflicts.
On the ground, nearly 3 million people have fled your country to safety, but the majority who remain are there fighting, they're there hiding, there are people in hospitals. What is the latest you can tell us about the humanitarian crisis within Ukraine right now?
Well, yes, indeed, we have more than 2 million refugees. The majority of the refugees are currently in Poland, then in Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, in Moldova. But we are speaking now about like 2 million out of a country of 42–44 million people. So you can imagine how many people are affected. I think that at least half of the Ukrainian population is affected, and they are basically IDPs inside the country, internally displaced people. Some cities like Lviv, for example, they are already overwhelmed with the numbers of IDPs. And I speak daily to many UN agencies and to foreign governments in order to expedite and escalate delivery of necessary humanitarian assistance to the people.
How are they doing in their ability to do that? The will is there.
The will is there.
Ability?
Exactly, the will is there, but many of the actors on the ground, humanitarian actors, they require from the Ukrainian government security assurances, which is very difficult to give them. If security assurances were so easy to provide, we would deliver assistance ourselves. So it is frustrating that the Russian Federation does not really keep the promises when we discuss with Russians humanitarian corridors to let people leave the besieged cities and towns. One of the tricks they use is that they insist that people should flee to the territory of Russia or Belarus, which we say we cannot force people to flee to Russia, where they are in a direct threat, and they basically may be used as hostages. And why should we force people to go to Russia if Europe is still open to Ukrainians?
Do you think the last 2.5 weeks have shown the limitations of an organization like the United Nations?
Well, absolutely. We should have no illusions about the United Nations. As I posted in one of my tweets, I said, basically, the United Nations is the product of the DNA of the founding fathers, and don't forget that one of the founding fathers was Stalin himself. So the United Nations is basically a product of the last century, of how the world looked and how the global powers wanted in the middle of the last century the world to look in the decades to come to protect their interests. So the way the Security Council is designed gives too much powers to countries like Russia to block necessary decisions.
Do you believe there's a level of frustration among your fellow ambassadors that when all of this is over, the UN might look different or try to look different than it does now?
You know, I said today, actually, at the end of my statement in the Security Council, that when Putin is removed from power in Russia, we cannot automatically go back to normalcy. It will take us a long time to adjust and to go through a cleansing process. So we have new counterparts from Russia, a new generation of ambassadors, new generation of foreign policy people to deal with. And it may take a while.
Finally, you're a diplomat. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators met on Monday by video. U.S. and Chinese officials met in Rome. What do you realistically think, Mr. Ambassador, at this point, of the possibility of some kind of negotiated end to this?
We will continue to negotiate as long as it is possible. We always maintain the position, even before the latest invasion, that there is only a diplomatic way to resolve this conflict.